Erin Kane. All right. So here this woman is. She goes on to speak about what her father tells her. She says, well, my father always says you have to like the people who you're working with. That's what her father, she says, tells her.
You know, my dad actually always said to me, he's like, you have to like the people you represent. So like, that sounds so simple, but really approaching it from like, who am I excited to watch? Who do I think is interesting? And then like you meet and you're like, oh, there's a good rapport here. Cause you do have to be able to talk about like, so everything. I mean, it's so personal. And like, I've had 2 clients who are mothers now. Like I might be one of the first people to know they're pregnant.
Now, here's the issue. In this interview, which is 45 minutes long, more or less, she goes on to speak about all of these other people. And when she spoke about them, she lit up. She had all these great things to say. We're gonna play this first one where she's speaking about this one person.
That I think a lot of other people love is like, there's no one and done. You get these players and you can see their development for 4 years through college. So you might see a freshman, like Malaysia Fulwiley at the University of South Carolina is just beginning to like really unlock her talent. I mean, she's so special. That's a storyline I want to watch.
And she's great, and I really appreciate her talent and her skill. And she says all of these wonderful things about this person, and she lights up. She lights up when she's talking about them. She goes on to talk about another woman. We're gonna play this clip.
I was able to like put together partnerships and deals. I was at that point, Jenny Finch was a client of that company, and we really hit it off. I really understood who she was, where she was coming from, what she wanted to accomplish. And if you think about it too, like the baseball agents, the majority of their business revenue comes from playing contracts. And you do one every how many years, you know?
Sometimes 3, 4, 5, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
It can be stretched out. Sometimes it's every year, whatever. But for Jenny, her business was like a succession. I mean, it's a lot of deals, right? Like you're trying to make the most money, have the most brand partners. It's like more labor intensive in some ways. But I loved it. And so I got to work really closely with her. She became my first client. We've worked together since 2006 to date myself a little bit. It's been almost 20 years. But yeah, that's how I got started.
That's incredible. I bet your guys' relationship has grown so much.
So she's talking about this person, and she lights up when she speaks about them. She talks about 4 or 5 other people, at least 3 other people, because she mentioned Don Staley and she mentioned somebody else, and she's speaking about these people, and she lights up when she speaks about them. But the minute he asked her about Caitlin Clark,
for fixed experience. It's been that's been a shift for me.
Scott Boris was my baseball agent. He represents Juan Soto, and you obviously represent Caitlin Clark. There's really no numbers to compare to because she's gonna be off the charts. So how do you and your team think of unique ways, or like, you know, you have to go and kind of go to the drawing boards and create something after that, right? Or is that stuff that you just create the new market?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's not an established playbook. And I'm very lucky to be working with Alan Zucker, who's like probably one of the most iconic and prolific marketing agents in the history of sports. You know, he works with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, and I mean, just he's had like a ton of great experiences. And as far as clients like Caitlin, she's one of one. Mm-hmm. And so it really is just about like setting the market. And you know, one thing Alan always says, and it's very true, is like the market tells us. Just like it's the fans that choose. I mean, there's this idea that like agents have all the control, or you can just sort of say something and make it into reality. But like the reality is you're reading the situation. Like it's the fans that choose. You know, there's a handful of players that have like ignited this sort of level of excitement by being incredible at what they do. But also, it's like how they do it. So it's Serena Williams, or I mean, you can pick. It's the iconic athletes, Simone Biles, especially when it's women. And Caitlin's one of those. It's like how she plays the game really captured the attention of a much, much broader fan base. And so when you're going to market, those are the comps you're sort of thinking of. It's like a Serena or Simone, or a Tiger Woods who changed golf, or because she's changing women's basketball. So
I see Kathy Engelbert and Christy Sides type energy. That whole thing where she mentions Caitlin Clark and then goes on, well, you know, she's one of one. Okay. And that's it? No light, just like, and then it's funny. As you're going through the video, look at the expressions on the faces of the guys in the room. Look at the expressions on their face. And one of them's like, really? Is she saying this? And then the other one's like, okay, let me nod and pretend like she's really saying something. And the other one is like, I can't believe this. Because she really was just glossing over just, oh yeah, Caitlin Clark, she's one of one. One of, you know, not, you know, just not anybody like her. No spark, no nothing when she's mentioning Caitlin Clark, which is the only reason why she on this show in the first place. They're not talking to her because she got all these other clients. You can take all them other clients and add them up together. They don't amount to what Clark is doing up here. But all you got to say about Caitlin Clark is, oh, she's one of one. That's it? Okay. See, you lit up when you talked about all those other people you talked about. I'm telling you, at least 5 people you talked about, you lit up. No light when you start talking about Caitlin Clark. Again, now I understand why she's being abused. Now I understand why her own agent is not coming to her rescue. Now I understand. I get it. You don't really like her. And I don't know, listen, I don't know what Caitlin Clark has done to make these people come down on her. I do, and I'm going to go into it. But they don't like her, and that's clear. There was no light in this woman's eye, on her face, in her expressions, nowhere, when she started talking about Caitlin Clark. And now it's clear to me. I understand why whomever it is on her team has allowed her to suffer the abuse that she has suffered in this league. Now, if we're talking about Christy Sides and what's going on with the team and how Sides is treating Clark and the things that she was doing, and even the team itself, somebody should have said something. And I can't say she didn't say something, because Christy Sides is gone, and we call that water under the bridge. All right, we call that what? Let's pretend like she said something. But then when it comes down to the league and the fact that the commissioner is allowing this abuse to happen on the court with Caitlin Clark, I would have put together evidence, and I would have put it in a document, and we would have been sending notice to let her know, let another player hit Caitlin Clark. This is my money. This is my money. I'm going to take care of her. Let another player hit Caitlin Clark. Some fines are going out. We're going into court, because we're not going to keep letting this happen. The fact that you got referees, the girl hip checks Caitlin Clark, and you don't even call it a foul. This woman poked Caitlin Clark in the eye. You don't even call a foul. Let it happen again. This would be Caitlin Clark's Basketball Association. It'd be CCBA is what it'd be called. There's no way that I would let someone who is my star and they are my client end up with that kind of abuse unless I was in bed with them and allowing them to abuse my client. That's the only way that's going to happen. Diva Lyri wouldn't be in bed with them like that. We would have problems. It's like, nobody better touch her. Nobody. If somebody breathed on her hard, that referee better be blowing the whistle. Oh, Caitlin Clark got a special whistle. You darn right she got a special whistle. And I wish another player might put a finger on her. Yeah, there's no way. So that's number two. You're not gonna have a situation where I'm allowing my player to receive that kind of damage on the court. It's not happening. Number three, there's no way that even if I was unfortunate enough to enter into such a bad contract. Now, I know a lot of people, $28 million, that's a lot of money, but it's not. It's not. Because she's worth billions. She's worth billions. 28 million is what she should have got in the first 2 years. Then, it's not even the amount of the contract. It's the neglect and disrespect of Nike to not even show any kind of respect or congratulations to all of the records that this woman has broken, to push her shoe deal out for 2 years and not even do any kind of promotions. That raggedy t-shirt they created, talking about not the rookie of the year with the Nike, and Caitlin Clark continues to wear Nike's brand, promote their brand. Meanwhile, they're not doing anything for her brand. This is not a good relationship. This is not a good relationship. And there's no way that she is my client and I allow anybody to abuse her. There's no way. So before I saw the interview, and let me make this clear, if I'm speaking on something, I want to take the time out to listen to the whole video in its entirety. And I listened to the whole video in its entirety. And the first clip that I saw, I was like, he mentioned Caitlin Clark, and she didn't even show, and I hadn't seen all of the other people who she talked about in the interview. I only saw the interview where he's talking about how she is Caitlin Clark's agent and how it is to be an agent for Caitlin Clark. All right. So as I'm listening to it, I'm seeing she has no energy for even the name Caitlin Clark, which is a brand. She has no energy. And I'm thinking, okay, again, I got that Christy Sides, Kathy Engelberg type energy. So then I go back and watch the video and I'm thinking, well, maybe she's just, a low-key type person. Maybe she's just, even keel. But as I'm watching the video, she talks about this one woman, Milana, and she's just lighting up like a light bright. Then she started talking about these other people, lighting up like a light bright. Then he mentions Caitlin Clark, and she's like, oh, yeah, well, Caitlin Clark, she is one of one. Then she goes on to talk about Dawn Staley, light bright. Then she go on to talk about some other people, light bright. We ain't come here to hear you talk about all this. We ain't come here to hear you talk about how you had a nervous breakdown because you realized you was getting old. Okay, there's a problem here. You don't even like your client. When it comes to that whole Nike deal, Clark needs somebody on her team who understands law. She needs somebody on her team who is creative and who knows how to take a negative situation and flip it so hard, 180 degrees, that Nike will beg her to let her out of that deal. If she were my client, Nike would be begging her to let them out of the deal. And that little $28 million, that would be icing on the cake that we build. Icing. Because Caitlin Clark is way more, she's worth far more than that 28 million. That 28 million would just be icing. Because the thing is, she doesn't have a team around her that's really tapping into what she has to offer. I mean, when you look at, and now we're going to compare Reese to her. On the basketball court, Caitlin Clark is all that. She's far greater talent. She's a far greater talent on the court than Angel Reese is. However, Reese got a team behind her. When it comes to business, Reese has got a team that's going to make sure her business is in order. She's got her endorsements, and not to say Clark doesn't, because Cambridge is not anything to sneeze at, all right? But what I am saying is it's clear that Reese has got a team around her. And I'm going to be honest with you. That whole thing about Reese and her wrist injury or what have you, I don't think she injured her wrist. Not enough to where she couldn't play. I'm not buying that. They say, oh, she had to have the surgery. Okay. I'm not buying that. What it looks like is somebody on her team said, girl, do you really want to do this? Because when it comes to making money, just tell them, just tell them you hurt your wrist, and then just chill out, and then come over here and we're going to make some millions over here. And that's exactly what she did. She went and made some millions with unapologetically and Reese's PCs and her tennis shoe deal with Adidas and all this other stuff. Her business is intact. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, she got Aaron Kane, who has put her into this contract deal whereby she's not going to see a tennis shoe for 2 years. And it's not saying a word. That's what they should have been asking her on this interview. Now, everybody's in uproar, Aaron, about this tennis shoe deal. Please talk to the people and tell them what's going on with that tennis shoe deal and what you think's going to happen and how we're going to make it better. Do you think $28 million was really the amount that is worthy of Caitlin Clark? Or do you feel that she's worth more? That's what I wanted to hear. That's a question I wanted to be asked. What are you doing about this tennis shoe deal? Okay, if it's me, I told you. It's going to be a situation. Well, I'm going to talk tonight. Look, Clark is worth billions right now. And we need to renegotiate. We really need to renegotiate this. If they tell me no, then we're going to do something different. We're going to flip the script. We're going to switch it up. Because, see, the thing about knowing law, it gives me the ability to be very, 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 very creative. And by the time I got finished with it, Nike would be begging for me to let them out the deal. So here's my deal. When it comes to Aaron Kane, who is Caitlin Clark's agent, I think she's an agent for the other side. I do not think that she's truly looking out for the best interest of Clark. This is my opinion based on what I'm seeing from the outside looking in. There could be some other things going on, but from the outside looking in, she's in somebody else's pocket. She's in somebody else's bed. And that means that she cannot truly give Caitlin Clark the representation that she deserves.